Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back into the Fantasy Headliners. Kyle here with a very early mock draft 1.0. That's right. Normally I don't do my first mock drafts until, later in February, but this year I'm getting a little bit ahead of the ball for you and dropping a mock draft way earlier than that because I want to start the conversation, man. This is part of I love this time of the year. Start watching a lot of film on college athletes and really breaking down the traits and the developmental things with those players. Absolutely love that. But don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, just because I'm doing my mock draft here doesn't mean the conversation ends here. I'm going to go through my mock draft pretty quickly, just talk about the picks and why. But if you want individual player breakdowns, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of who is going to be the next impact player or players at the NFL level, we do all of that over on Headliner U. So make sure there's a description down below me in this video, okay? In the description is going to be a link over to Headliner U. Make sure you subscribe there on YouTube. My man Chris Chouse doing a whole lot of great content over there. You'll probably see me pop up every once in a while as well to talk some college athletes, but that's where you really get prepared, not only for the NFL draft, but for that next wave of potential superstars coming in. Who should you be keeping an eye on, and who should you be rooting for your team to draft? But like I mentioned, we're talking about mock draft 1.0 here. So hit the like button for me, ladies and gentlemen, and let's roll. For the second straight year, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to find themselves atop the NFL draft. And more than likely, yourself and a lot of places out there right now are going to be mocking an edge rusher to them. And I don't blame them, okay? Guys like Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeaux at the top of the draft, they make a whole lot of sense for Jacksonville. But honestly, sometimes it's those not so sexy picks that really end up making a team a lot better, a lot quicker. And yes, it would help, on the stat sheet a little bit and things like that. But by kind of switching course and going a different route, this is going to help in way more ways than what just a pass rusher would. And that would be by taking Ikem Ekwonu out of NC State, my favorite offensive tackle in this draft. This dude is an absolute beast. He's been a starter there since his freshman year, and he has everything that you want in a left tackle: size, physicality, high football IQ. And to me, he's much safer than going with like an Aiden Hutchinson or Thibodeaux at the top of that at the top of the draft. Even though their upside might be a little bit higher, he's a whole lot safer, and he is a guy that is going to help right away with Trevor Lawrence, the guy that you spent a first-round pick on last year. Lawrence did not have a great year this year. We need to get him help, and we need to get him protected, and the only way to do that is by going and grabbing a guy like Ikem Ekwonu. I'm going to mess that up a couple of times this year. My apologies. But grabbing a guy like him is just going to be so much better, and it's really going to help the team overall and Trevor Lawrence progress. Detroit Lions at number 2. This is where I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson here, edge rusher out of Michigan. Athletic freak, but really what sets him apart for Thibodeaux for me is that it's that high football IQ. And nothing against Thibodeaux. He's a really good player. He is a guy that's going to be a really good football player for a very long time. But there's just something different about watching Aiden Hutchinson and what he does on the football field. He just seems to know exactly what to do all the time. The game just seems to run in slow motion with him. He can use power. He can use precision. He can play in any scheme. He can stand up. He can put his hand in the ground. The guy just... his football IQ is the scariest thing about him, and he is one of the most physical players in this draft. So that says a whole lot about what you're going to be getting from Aiden Hutchinson. At number 3, the Houston Texans this year, I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton. If it wasn't for Aiden Hutchinson being my favorite defensive player in this draft, it would be Kyle Hamilton by 900 miles, the safety out of Notre Dame. This dude is an absolute beast and maybe one of the best safeties that we see in a draft in quite some time. I mean, this guy is just, not only does he do everything well, he does everything exceptionally well. That's what's really scary about this kid is he's just not like, oh, he does these things good and that's what was going to make him a good player. When you look down and you break down the things that he's good at, he's great at all of them. And there's a whole lot of things. The dude closes well. He's a ball hawk at the safety position. He can come up and play in the box. He can do some coverage stuff. He can play deep. He can do anything that you want him to do. Kyle Hamilton is going to be a guy that's going to be a great NFL player for a very, very long time. Now, here at number 4 to the New York Jets, this is where I'm going to go with Kayvon Thibodeaux, edge out of Oregon. I definitely like this guy as well. Like I said, there's nothing against him. The separation between him and Aiden Hutchinson is minimal at most. I love Thibs. I just wonder if he can be a little two-dimensional at the next level. I think that he is a guy that may get his ears pinned back a little too often and just go, 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 go. Now, that's not bad in any way, shape, or form. I mean, if the guy's getting you, double-digit sacks every single year, that's great. I just think he's a guy that might over-pursue a little bit and maybe get beat by some really good run teams, rendering him a little bit useless. So, because of that, that's the reason I have him a little bit lower. Obviously, this past year dealt with some injuries. We'll see how those play out. He should end up being just fine, though. It's not a big injury concern for me. Coming in at number 5 is going to be the New York Giants. One of their first 2 picks here in the top 10 of the first round. I'm going to go with Evan Neal, offensive tackle out of Alabama. I'm going to go OT here because more than likely, if they don't, Carolina right behind them is going to be looking at an offensive tackle. And if they don't take the tackle here, then when we drop to 1.07, where the Giants will pop up here again in a second, that offensive tackle could be off the board. So I'm going to go with an offensive tackle here first with Evan Neal. Going to be a really, really good player. I like him a lot too. He's the number 1 offensive tackle for a lot of people in this draft. For me, he is number 2. I'm going to go with him to the New York Giants. If they're really going to invest in Daniel Jones again, they've got to get the guy some protection and really give him an opportunity to use that arm. At number 6, Carolina. I don't love this pick, but I feel like Carolina is kind of being forced into it, taking Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pittsburgh, a guy that really has shown some really nice traits on tape that could lead to some high upside. I don't think there's any quarterbacks in this draft that are safe. I don't think there's any quarterbacks in this draft that when I watch them, I say, man, this is a game changer at the next level. But there are some quarterbacks, including Pickett, in this draft who, when you watch them play, there are a few things that you say, there's some potential for some above average to great kind of traits there. So because of that, I think Carolina's backed themselves in a position where they have to draft a quarterback. Just kind of the mess that we saw last year with Sam Darnold, then trying to bring in Cam Newton and then going back and forth with them. Obviously, Matt Rule is kind of fighting for his life right now as the head coach. He could be coming to an end very soon if they don't turn it around. So for me, when I take a look at it, this could be Matt Rule saying, okay, I'm going to take a quarterback here. I'm going to get my guy. Give him some time, maybe start him right away, see what happens. If he can go get his quarterback and Kenny Pickett comes in and plays well, then at that point, hey, maybe you start to turn some things around and things are a lot better. So I think Matt Rule ends up going that route this year. At 1.07, the New York Giants, in that trade with the Chicago Bears last year when they moved up to grab Justin Fields, they get themselves the 7th overall pick this year. And I'm going to go with George Karlaftis. Okay, I didn't say it right there. George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis from Purdue. We're going to be going with Karlaftis here. Knock on your power. Okay, I don't have my bleep button here. It's over there on the gaming stream. But listen, he's got that knock you on your backside power, just lacking some of that precision that you would see from like Hutchinson and Thibodeau. But he's going to come right at you. I mean, he is going to knock you on your butt. There's going to be a lot of left tackles, a lot of right tackles, depending on what side he lines up on at the next level, that are not going to be able to deal with his power because of how strong he is. So that's definitely something I see with him, just coming right at you, knocking you over, needing to learn some of that precision a little bit and be able to kind of get himself in a position to maybe win with his hands a little bit more instead of just knocking people over. But, you know, edge rusher is a big thing for the Giants as well. And I think you skip on him at 5. You go ahead and go with Evan Neal to get him in front of Carolina, knowing he might not be there when they come up with the next pick, and you still get your edge rusher afterwards. The Atlanta Falcons at number 8 are going to go with Jordan Davis, the best defensive lineman in the nation this past year. Oh man, dude is just, he can stop the run on his own. I mean, the dude, just a huge, massive human being that Jordan Davis is. He reminds me of a more athletic Vince Wilfork is what it is. Vince, the guy, could just plug up those holes in the middle of the line. And I mean, this guy can do the same thing. Jordan Davis can just fill up that hole right there in the line, stop the run on his own, but he creates pressure. He's not one of those interior defensive linemen where the biggest thing he does is he just stops the run and fills those gaps up. This is a dude that's going to knock over a lot of guards and create a lot of problems on the inside. When you add a guy like that for the Atlanta Falcons, a guy that can win in both ways, that is a really great start to trying to get this thing turned around. All right. And the NFC South trying to leave things wide open at this point. Can Atlanta take advantage of that? The Denver Broncos are going to go with an edge rusher here at number 9 overall, David Ojabo out of Michigan. Ojabo is a guy, again, I watched this past year and I absolutely love him. Okay. Now, it may seem early right now. Now, depending on when you're watching this, you might be thinking, Ojabo that early? There's no way, Kyle. He's a late first rounder, second rounder. Some of you are going to be saying that, but just wait. Just wait until after the combine. Then you all are going to understand why I've got this dude as a top 10 pick. This year, he was kind of overshadowed by Hutchinson a little bit, but Ojabo has all of the physical gifts that are needed. He just needs a little bit more seasoning. And I mean, this is a guy that came from overseas. I mean, his parents came to a football game for the first time this past year. I mean, this is a guy that did not start playing football until his junior year of high school. So he is not a guy that has had as much seasoning as some of these other players. He kind of reminds me of Ziggy Ansah. If you remember, drafted by the Detroit Lions several years back, didn't end up having as long as a career you would like. You know, a lot of injuries kind of derailed that, but he's a guy that reminds me of, you know, has a lot of those things where he still needs some seasoning, very raw in some of that skill set, but just the overall physical abilities are there, and that alone is going to help take him to the next level. All right, moving into number 10 now, the New York Jets. They're getting this pick from the Seattle Seahawks, their second pick in the top 10. I'm going to go with Derek Stingley Jr., quarterback out of LSU here. We all know head coach Robert Saleh. He's a defensive guy, man. I like him, all right? He's got a lot of energy. I like him. Really, towards the end of the season, the Jets, you know, playing with some fire, some intensity. I like to see that. I think he's going to have him in a good position next year, but he's going to have to work on that defense. And with him being a defensive guy, I think they go D here. Get this dude right away. They need another wide receiver, okay? But there's going to be plenty of wide receivers available. Go with a guy that is undoubtedly the top cornerback in this draft. I mean, Stingley is a guy, had a 2020 season that was just through the roof. 2021, I mean, it was hard to live up to the hype from 2020, so it seemed like it was a little bit of a down year, but this is just another guy that does so many things well. He is going to be a guy that's going to battle with top wide receivers for the rest of his career. For the Washington football team at 11 overall, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson. Now, he is my wide receiver 1 in this draft. I mean, this dude just does some things on the football field that seems absolutely ridiculous. And for the Washington football team, they could probably use this pick on some stronger needs, okay? But if you put Wilson on the other side of McLaurin, whoever ends up being that next quarterback for the Washington football team, when they get him, they're going to have plenty of weapons. Antonio Gibson in the backfield, McLaurin, and then you add Wilson here on the other side. Plenty of weapons to help whoever it is win. Now, they need a quarterback, right? But like I said a couple of minutes ago when I was talking about Pickett a little bit more, I think this is too early for the guys that we see in this draft. If they're really thinking about another quarterback, I'd like to see, or if they're thinking about drafting a quarterback, I'd like to see it a little bit later on. There are some guys that could potentially be some nice values, but not first round values, and certainly not 11 overall values. At number 12, the Minnesota Vikings, they're going to go cornerback as well with Andrew Booth out of Clemson. Andrew Booth, Minnesota is losing 3 of their cornerbacks to free agency, and they have very little cap room. So I don't know if they're going to be able to re-sign those guys. Great pick here. A guy that honestly is a top 10 player, but he's just going to drop down the board a little bit based on some other needs that are needed. Booth is he might get beat some in his rookie ceiling or in his rookie season. He does, again, have some of that seasoning he needs to go through, but his ceiling is insanely high, and he definitely has those tools to grow into a guy that's just one of those shutdown corners that can take on any wide receiver in the NFL. At number 13, the Cleveland Browns. We're going to go with DeMarvin Leal, interior defensive lineman out of Texas A&M. He is a versatile athlete that can power rush or stay home and stop the run. He was used all over the line at Texas A&M, and I think that Cleveland would be benefited from doing the same thing with him, putting him on the inside, moving him to the outside every once in a while, but giving somebody there to help create pressure and take some of the pressure off of Myles Garrett, always needing him to be the guy to get home. Tyler Linderbaum is going to come in at number 14 overall to the Baltimore Ravens. Interior offensive lineman, center out of Iowa, best center in this draft. He could also push out to guard if it was ever needed. But the thing right now is that Bradley Bosman from Minnesota, he could leave via free agency. He's going to be one of the top coveted, definitely top coveted center, one of the best offensive lineman and one of the better players in this year's free agency class. He could be commanding a lot of money, and with not a whole lot of money to spend for Baltimore and some cap issues that they're going to have to go through to maybe create some room, Bosman, he may not end up, the Ravens may not be able to bring him back. Bring in Linderbaum, a guy that is NFL ready, can come in and help right away. At number 15, back-to-back first-round picks from the Philadelphia Eagles. And here I'm going to have him go Kenyon Green, interior offensive lineman out of Texas A&M. And I'm going to have him go with Ahmad Gardner, cornerback out of Cincinnati. The Eagles are committed to Jalen Hurts for right now. So because of that, we need to get some guys to offer him some help. For Gardner, might be a tad early on this one with him. For me, he kind of ranks in the 20-ish area, but based on what I'm seeing here and what some things may play out as, if I'm Philly, I'm going to go ahead and just take him right here and go with that cornerback, because I think that he is a guy that they're going to need to add, because adding another cornerback is going to be a necessity for this Eagles team. The Los Angeles Chargers at 17 are going to go with another offensive lineman this year, and I don't think that is a bad idea whatsoever. Charles Cross, offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Now, they probably need an edge defender first, and that would be a little bit better for them, but there's not really anyone in this area based on what I've already done with my mock that feels worth reaching for. So let's take an exceptional tackle, a guy like Charles Cross that can absolutely dominate the opposing defenders, and let's continue to, Charles Cross is a guy that is good enough to be a starting left tackle in the NFL, but because we already have Rashawn Slater there, we can move him over to right tackle, and then really you have two guys that are so good playing the tackle positions, you're going to be protecting Justin Herbert for a very long time. The Nolan Saints are going to draft Chris Olave. Excuse me. It is really late at night, and I leave in it's really late at night. My apologies. Anyway, Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State. This team for the New Orleans Saints, they're going to be entering rebuilding mode. Again, a team that has no cap space whatsoever. Michael Thomas is probably going to need to be a casualty of that. Trying to move him, get a team to take his contract is going to be a big help there. bring in a guy, Chris Olave, who can come in and be that kind of replacement for him. At number 19, here we go. Philadelphia Eagles back up again on the clock. Nakobe Dean, linebacker out of Georgia. Oh, he might be a little bit undersized for a linebacker, but if you think about a guy like Patrick Queen, a lot of the same things were said about him, and he dropped, and he's been just a fine player. He has amazing instincts and closing ability. He can play the run with ease. He can track down running backs all over the field. He can cover sideline to sideline. He can blitz for you. He can drop back into coverage. The dude, he has a lot of acceleration and a lot of speed. He picks up fast. He runs fast. He closes fast, and he brings you down. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, out of Ohio State, Nicholas Petit-Frere is going to be coming in as our offensive tackle here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, so the Steelers last year, as much as I disagreed with it, they went with the sexy pick of a Najee Harris. This year, they've got to be smarter with it. That offensive line was not good last year. You're dealing with a quarterback situation now where you don't know who it's going to be. You've got a couple of guys already on the roster that you might potentially use. So I don't know if we need to go with a quarterback here. If you do, potentially like a Sam Howell maybe. Maybe we see him go here. Looking at the quarterbacks though, let me go back over here to my big board real fast. Looking at the quarterbacks, Kenny Pickett again, I've got him here, but we've got Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder, and Sam Howell kind of as those next guys after there. You can kind of throw Carson Strong into the mix as well. All of those guys, though, I would rather see Pittsburgh try to move somewhere in the second round to get one of them. I mean, do they go with one here? It's quite possible, and I would not be shocked, but I would rather have them work on that offensive line to protect whoever it is and give Najee Harris a little bit better ability to create bigger plays. For the New England Patriots at 1.21, Devin Lloyd, linebacker out of Utah. There's some people that think that this guy is a top 10 pick. I don't like Lloyd as much as some people. I do think he is a very good player. I just don't know if he has the type of upside that I potentially see from a guy like Dean, who I have going above him. But depending on how some things work out, Dean absolutely could end up going higher. I do have him as a guy that's more kind of in those teens area, but just with how this mock is playing out right now, he's dropping down to 21 overall. Would rather see a wide receiver here to the New England Patriots, but I'm worried about Jameson Williams and that ACL tear, so I don't know if I want to go with him right here. He would seem like a good pick here, but get younger at linebacker. You're a little bit old at linebacker right now. You're going to be kind of seeing those guys fade off here pretty soon. Let's continue to build a really dominating defense. For the Las Vegas Raiders at pick 22, Roger McCreary, cornerback out of Auburn, could be the steal of the first round. McCreary isn't going to have as much upside as you'll see with like Stingley or Booth, but he is a ball hawk. He plays tough against all wide receivers. He is aggressive. He is the type of guy that wide receivers don't love to play against. He's really handsy, knocking you all over, pushing you, really physical with you, and that's what's going to make him a very good player. For the Arizona Cardinals at 1.23, Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher out of Florida State. Chandler Jones is going to be a free agent. The health of J.J. Watt is still up in the air. You're going to have to replace some of that pressure that you could potentially be losing there. I like Johnson. He can stand up in a 3-4. He can put his hand in the ground for a 4-3. He gets to the quarterback well, and he does a good job of staying really balanced and stopping the run. At number 1.24, the Dallas Cowboys, who continue to just overlook the safety position in drafts and just sign guys to one-year prove-it deals. They're not going to be able to get away with that for very long. They need to solidify the position. I'm going with Daxton Hill, safety out of Michigan here. Some people think he's a little bit undersized, may end up being more of a second-round pick. I do understand that, and I see that. However, Dallas is going to have 3 safeties who are going to be free agents. So they're going to have to replace some of them. They're probably not going to re-sign all 3 of them. And the Cowboys, again, have overlooked this position for a while, but they need a guy to play center field. They need a guy to kind of be that deep safety, a guy that doesn't allow people to get beat that is Daxton Hill. And I feel like for this scheme, and what they need, he fits this a little bit better, in my opinion. He has great athleticism, great speed. He's able to stick with guys. He is a guy that can move into the slot and play that nickel position, or he can play that deep safety position. He can play well against the run, and he has really good instincts. He's a little bit on the smaller side, though. So like I said, maybe some of those more stout running backs, he's not going to be able to stand up at the NFL like he did at the college level. So he might not be playing in the box nearly as much, but he is a guy that will definitely help that team in the pass defense section of the defense. Buffalo Bills at 1.25. I'm going to go with Trayvon Walker, edge out of Georgia. Walker could be a really great fit for the Bills. They need to create pressure on the inside and the outside, okay? And because of that, Walker can do both. Georgia moving him inside, moving him outside, doing both of those things, and really giving him an opportunity to make plays all along the defensive line, and he could do the same thing for Buffalo. The slide of Jameson Williams is going to stop here with the Tennessee Titans at 1.26. The fall ends here, okay? Yes, the ACL injury is probably going to worry some teams, but the Titans are going to pick him here. They need a guy to play opposite of A.J. Brown, and they've got Julio Jones for at least one more year. This year, it's going to be too expensive to walk away from, but next year, they get a significant dead cap decrease from cutting Julio Jones if they decide to do that. So bring him in this year, no pressure for him to step in right away. Then he can be a guy that can win very, very, very well against those guys that are more cornerback twos, while the top cornerback is over on the other side facing A.J. Brown for years to come. So Jameson Williams, I do like this. I think it's a really good fit and a good opportunity for the Titans to get a really great wide receiver to go on the other side of A.J. Brown. For the Tampa Bay Bucks, they're going to go with Trent McDuffie, cornerback out of Washington. He does everything right. He might not be that sexy shutdown corner that sometimes you see in the NFL, but he is a guy, he tackles well. He can help stop the run every once in a while. He plays well, whether it be man or zone. He's just an overall solid player. So again, maybe some of that upside that you see with the other cornerbacks at the top of the first, you won't see with McDuffie, but you're going to get a guy that plays very well. For the Buccaneers, Carlton Davis is going to be a free agent, but the key is two of their other corners are going to be done with their rookie deals next year. So there's a great opportunity to bring in their replacement now. For the Green Bay Packers at 1.28, Jaquan Brisker, safety out of Penn State. Really like Brisker. I think he's going to be a really good NFL player. Both of their starting safeties are going to be free agents next year, and the Packers, they might be going into more of a rebuilding phase here. They've never used a pick on a wide receiver, so I'm not going to put a wide receiver here. Well, I wouldn't say they've never used a pick. They've never used a first-round pick, okay, with Aaron Rodgers there on a wide receiver. So why would they all of a sudden start now? I don't think so. So I'm going to go with the safety here. For the Cincinnati Bengals at number 1.29, going to go with Trevor Penning, offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. Watching Burrow get sacked 974 times in a playoff game is probably enough to feel a little queasy at the end of it, no matter how sweet the win is, all right? Joe Burrow continuing to get hit like that needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. You had your fun last year. You took Jamar Chase. Turned out to be just fine, right? You skipped on Penei Sewell, though, okay? You skipped on Sewell. You went with Chase instead, okay? You've done that. You've had your fun. Be smart now. Take a guy that can slot in. He is a guy, Penning is more of a right tackle than he is a left tackle, which will work out really, really good for this team. So throw him over there and help him continue to grow that offensive line and get even better. For the Miami Dolphins, at number 1.30, this pick is coming from San Francisco from last year when San Francisco moved up to get Trey Lance. Miami going to be getting their pick this year, 1.30. I'm going with Zion Johnson, interior offensive lineman out of Boston College. I like this fit for the Miami Dolphins, all right? They need to put themselves in a position to get better on the offensive line, 100%. And they're going to do that. They have one of the worst pass protections in the NFL this year. they're either going to have to spend a lot of money on upgrades for the offensive lineman, or you go with a guy like Zion Johnson who can play on the interior. You can continue to keep, obviously Thomas being out there, still Etchenberg is still can be out there. So you've got guys who can play out there, right? Keep them out there. Let's give it another year. Let's go with Zion Johnson, put him there. Jahan Dotson, coming out of Penn State. He's the field stretcher that the Chiefs have desperately needed. So, Jahan Dotson, definitely a guy that can come in, stretch the field, help open up the interior of that defensive scheme for Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce to exploit. Allow those guys to do that. He is definitely the guy that they always hoped Mecole Hardman would be. And rounding out the first round, 1.32, the Detroit Lions from the LA Rams. Again, some of these picks, foreshadowing here. Detroit Lions from the LA Rams, Christian Harris, linebacker out of Alabama. I like Christian Harris. Maybe more of a second round pick for some people, but for me, I think he's got first round potential, okay? And that's what the Lions need to do. They need to draft some guys that kind of have that high upside potential. He does everything. He can cover tight ends going down the stream. He is the seam. Again, it's really late. I probably shouldn't be recording these mock drafts so late at night, but it is what it is. Your boy's busy right now. I got to get the content out when I can. Okay, anyway, covering tight ends in the seam, running backs out of the backfield. He just needs to finish tackles a little bit better. And I think that's the thing right now that's keeping him out of the first round. Sometimes he has a habit of launching himself. He looks for like that huge hit instead of just staying consistent and really breaking down, collapsing at the point of attack, wrapping up the offensive player and bringing him to the ground. For me, Christian Harris, again, that's kind of the one thing that's keeping him out of the first round right now. Boom! Mock Draft 1.0 is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. Again, don't forget, subscribe to Headliner University, HU, over on YouTube. Well, right here on YouTube, not over. Subscribe to Headliner U here on YouTube, where we'll be breaking down these players more in depth and talking more about what is going to make them successful at the next level. So make sure that you go do that. But if you're new here, you got to subscribe to this channel too. Why would you not do that? Come on, come back and see my pretty face as I talk more football here with Jake and the gang. Make sure you hit that like button for me and leave a comment down below. Let me know who your team is and who you would like to see them pick. That dream scenario for you, who would you like to see fall into your lap at that pick? Leave it in the comment down below. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.